Hi everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Alba Córdoba-Cabús, and I am presenting this work carried out with Andreu Casero-Ripollés, Laura Alonso-Muñoz, and Alejandra Tirado-García. Our research is entitled The Emotional Dimension of Disinformation during the 2024 European Parliament election. This study is part of a project funded by Generalitat Valenciana under the Prometeo program. Let me begin by briefly explaining the context and why this research matters. Disinformation poses a direct threat to democracy. It erodes public debate, contaminates the deliberative space, and undermines citizens' ability to make rational decisions. This danger becomes even more evident during elections, when false content spreads more rapidly and has a greater impact due to its emotional charge. In this sense, emotions are used not only to give false evidence an appearance of legitimacy, but also to manipulate user perceptions. For this reason, the study of emotions has become essential to understanding the public spheres. Our research is guided by 4 goals. First, to examine the presence and timing of emotional disinformation during the 2024 European elections. Second, to analyze how emotions relate to the formats and dissemination channels of disinformation. Third, to identify the most common type of emotions present in false content. And finally, to determine the main users and targets of emotional disinformation with special attention to political groups. To achieve these objectives, we designed a systematic methodology, which I will explain next. Our analysis covered the period from May 1st to June 30, 2024. We drew on fact checks collected by Election24 checks, resulting in a sample of 248 verifications. We applied content analysis with both descriptive and inferential approach. Using SPSS program, we carry out T-square tests at a 95% confidence level. When p-values were significant, we explore standardized residuals, direction of association, and effect size. With the method established, let us now look at the results, beginning with the presence and timing of emotional disinformation. We found that more than 40% of disinformation cases contain emotional content. What is more, this emotional disinformation intensified as election day approached. If we look at the geographical dimension, the distribution across countries reveals interesting patterns. Spain, Poland, and Germany were the countries where emotional disinformation appeared most frequently during the campaign. But the channel of disinformation also makes a big difference. We observe a strong relationship between the dissemination channel and the presence of emotions. Social media clearly emerged as the predominant space for emotional disinformation, while its presence on other channels was residual. This leads us to ask, does the emotional load vary depending on the format of the content? The answer is revealing. The emotional dimension was not conditioned by the format. However, we did find that emotions were especially associated with certain topics. In particular, disinformation related to the electoral campaign itself, questioning its legitimacy and public policies, especially immigration, containing higher levels of emotional trait. The dominant tone was negative. Negative emotion accounted for over a third of cases, with anger being the most common, followed by fear and shame. But who is behind this type of content? The main issuers of emotional disinformation were anonymous citizens. Nevertheless, influencers, celebrities, and political figures also participated, though to a lesser extent. If we look more closely at political affiliation, the picture becomes clearly. We found that far-right groups, especially Patriots for Europe and Europe of Sovereign Nations, were the most frequent issuers of emotional disinformations. And who were the main protagonists of this type of content? As you can see, the main protagonists were the European institutions. In particular, the European People's Party, which leads the parliament, was the main focus of emotionally charged disinformation. The results allow us to draw several important conclusions. First, emotional electoral disinformation does not occur randomly. Rather, it intensified at key campaign moments, suggesting a strategic use. We also observed significant emotional diversity, although negative emotions were dominant. These negative emotions were mainly used to harm and discredit, while positive ones were intended to reinforce support. The topic analysis confirms that disinformation not only manipulates facts, but also emotion, tailoring its strategies depending on context and audience. Social media clearly plays a central role. Emotions are key to visibility and virality, making them powerful tools for spreading disinformation. Anonymous profiles were the main issuers, though influencers and political figures also played a role. In terms of political groups, far-right alliances were particularly active, while the popular groups was the primary target. Taken together, these findings illustrate how emotional electoral disinformation contributes to deepening polarization in public debate, posing a serious challenge for democracy. Thank you very much for your attention. I would be happy to answer any question you may have. Thank you so much.